Welcome to the Italian Wine Podcast. This episode has been brought to you by the Wine to Wine Business Forum 2022. This year will mark the 9th edition of the forum to be held on November 7th and 8th of 2022 in Verona, Italy. This year will be an exclusively in-person edition. The main theme of the event will be all-round wine communication, and tickets are on sale now. The first early bird discount will be available until August 22nd. For more information, please visit us at winetowine.net. Welcome to this special Italian Wine Podcast broadcast. This episode is a recording off Clubhouse, the popular drop-in audio chat. This Clubhouse session was taken from the Wine Business Club and Italian Wine Club. Listen in as wine lovers and experts alike engage in some great conversation on a range of topics in wine. If you enjoy listening, please consider donating through ItalianWinePodcast.com. Any amount helps cover equipment, production, and publication costs. And remember to subscribe and rate our show wherever you tune in. Hi, everybody. This is Joy Living. I'm standing in for Stevie Kim. This is Ambassador's Corner. And today we have Julie Farricker speaking with Francesca Margiotta. And yeah, here we are in very sunny and very warm Verona, Italy. And it's crazy hot right now. Stevie is in London doing the VIA course there with many of the other people from the office. So they're busy working away. Just a quick bit of information about Clubhouse. We replay this on the Italian Wine Podcast. So we have Julie Farricker tonight. Julie is a Vinitaly Italian Wine Ambassador and owner of the Italian Cellar, a wine shop that exclusively sells Italian wines. She's traveled to all 20 regions of Italy and recently became a certified Italian Olive Oil Sommelier, which is super cool. And she is the official ambassador of Orvieto Wines. And when she's not educating customers about Italian wine and food, she is a high school English and history teacher and starting her 19th year next week, which is crazy. I loved my history teacher in school, by the way. My favorite teacher, so I'm biased here.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's amazing. You know, have a good teacher and you will you'll take that with you. Yeah. Okay. So Julie, tell me where you are right now.
So I'm currently in Florida, and Florida is just as hot as Italy. However, in Florida there's plentiful air conditioning. I was in Italy actually for about 6 weeks this summer, and I will say it was rather painful. That heat really got to me after a while, but I tried to make the best of it. I was in Orvieto. I was in Umbria for about 3 weeks, and I was with the Orvieto Consortio with a few other ambassadors, and we were learning all about Orvieto wines, and it was just such a great experience. It was so hot, and it was at one point, unfortunately, I had to talk to a doctor because of heat exhaustion. And of course, the doctor's response to me was, "But you live in Florida." I said, "Yes, but there's a difference between Florida and here."
Yeah.
But
it's also different. The heat is a bit different, isn't it? I mean, I'm not sure about Florida. Is it very humid there or?
Yes, very humid. And, it's so funny because here at school, I mean, if we have an issue at school with air conditioning, they'll close part of the school down and they'll move things to where the air conditioning is. That's how serious it is here. They take it so seriously. But, I've understood how you don't find it as much in Italy. I respect that. But this year it was a little bit of a struggle, but I made it through. So, and I'm in air conditioning right now, so don't worry.
I wish I could say the same. My apartment is like a sauna. It is so hot, like I can't even tell you.
Oh boy.
That's okay. I've gotten used to it by now, but it's pretty warm. I bought a fan the other day thinking
Mhm.
that would fix things, and it's okay, but it's pretty hard to sleep when you are, sweating. That's so
Ice cubes,
yeah,
washcloths,
yeah.
anything in cooler water.
Yeah, exactly. Oh
Trust me,
my
I can
gosh.
give you
Well,
tips.
oh, I'll take them. Yeah. So, tell me, how did you discover Francesca Margiotta as your favorite producer?
So I met Francesca in this past October, and I was with fellow members of the Italian Cellar. So Ed, Lindsay, and I, we are the owners of the Italian Cellar, and we, as you mentioned, we only sell Italian wine. So every time that we do visit Italy, we try to meet with producers in various regions. So we had focused in October on the Abruzzo region, and Francesca met us when we had visited Margiotta Winery, and she just had so much energy and so much passion for not only the wines that they're selling, but also the Abruzzo region, the Montepulciano grape. I mean, she just embodied everything about Abruzzo. And it was just so great to hear that because, of course, she is part of the fifth generation of the winery, but she wanted to make sure that, any questions we had that she answered. So for us, as for the three of us, it was just such a great experience. And then, understanding the importance of the winery to her family. She also had done these amazing, of course, wine and food, these wine and food pairings that she did as we were going through the degustazione, the tasting. They were things that I hadn't even thought of before. So it was just lovely to meet her and hear that energy and passion about Abruzzo and its wines. So that's why I chose Francesca.
Awesome, awesome. And so what do you like? You know how Stevie's all about the learning objectives for these shows. Do you what do you want people to come away with after this in terms of her wines and
Oh,
her
yes. Okay, so of course, teachers, we always have our objectives. So hopefully, at the end of this lesson, we won't call it lesson, but of course, this episode, um, Francesca and I will be discussing more about the native grapes of Abruzzo, because of course, it's important to know each region's native grapes. So we'll be discussing that. And then, of course, the role of Montepulciano as the powerhouse grape of not just her portfolio, but of the region. And another aspect is the pecorino grape and its gaining status in sparkling wines. And I will let Francesca discuss this, but one of the wines that we had tasted at her winery was an amazing sparkling pecorino. And of course, the food pairing that went with it, the types of cheeses, it just was so great. So those are the main things. It's very Abruzzo centric, but that's the goal.
Okay, cool. Well, I guess what's left to do is call in Francesca. Are you there?
Hi, everybody.
Ciao,
Hi.
Francesca. Buonasera. Hello.
Ciao, buonasera a tutti.
Well, I guess you guys are both there. So I'm gonna mute myself and then we'll come back at the end. And yeah, I don't know if there will be time for questions. There rarely is, but we'll see. Let's I'll let you guys get going and then we'll talk later. Go
Perfect.
ahead.
All right. Well, thank you,
Okay.
Joy. And of course, welcome to Francesca and welcome to all of our guests. Buonasera dalla Cantina Italiana. Sono Giulia for some of our Italian listeners. But I am Julie from the Italian Cellar. And tonight we are discussing Margiotta wines with Francesca. So, Francesca has been working with her father since 2016 at the winery. And a little tidbit is that at Vinitaly in 2019, the Cantina Margiotta received the prestigious Angelo Betti Award for Meritorious Viticulture, Gran Medaglia Can Grande for the Abruzzo region. And we'll talk more about that later. And Francesca is part of the winery's fifth generation. So we are very happy and honored to speak with Francesca this evening. So, hello.
Hello.
All
Welcome,
right.
everybody.
Yes. So, Francesca, I know that of course, I'm going to be asking you some questions, but of the best place to start is we know that you're in Abruzzo, but tell us about a little bit of the history of Cantina Margiotta.
So, we can say that all Cantina Margiotta history has begun with my fifth grandfather, Gabriele Margiotta, who started to cultivate in 1910 Montepulciano of Abruzzo in our cold valley. Not today, but usually it is really cold here. And at that time, you have to imagine that viticulture was not in line as we are used to have it today, but vine were cultivated like real trees, tall as my knee about, and just producing 3-4 kilogram of fruits each plant. So imagine how hard it was to obtain good wine at that time. So luckily for me, it is no more like that. And we produce about 12 hectares of native grapes here in Pelligna Valley. And actually in the winery, it is me, my dad, Carlo, and his father, so my grandpa, Silvio, who is the real vineyard's boss. And it is a real familiar business. So it is always us and, some relatives who help us, especially in the harvest time, in the vendemmia time, which is, one of the most happiest moment of the year, but even the harder.
Yes, and then when did you specifically join the cantina?
So someone is used to say that wine is in my blood because I'm always bounded in this family business. But we can say I really started to be part of the winery when I was graduate. So I was graduate in 2017 in University of Bologna City, and I'm really graduate in viticulture and enology. So I'm legally an enologist in Italy, who is the real technician, so the real wine technician maker. And yeah, we can say my real, starting with the helping the winery it is in 2016. As told you, I really started when I was a child, because you have to imagine when there's a winery business in the family, harvest time, for example, it is our Christmas time about. So all the year it's all involved in when we will harvest and how the vintage will be. And so imagine to have this discussion in family every day of the year. So we can say always involved in this kind, not business, but story.
Yes, of course. And that's what I had noticed as soon as I had met you in October, is that, you
Mm,
were so proud to
yeah.
show us, the vineyards, and then of course just talk about the wines and how wine is evolving. And of course I honored that so much because that's what wine is. It's passed down through generations, and to see you exemplifying that was amazing. And so when we talk about the Abruzzo region, what are some
Mhm.
things that you would like others, because since Abruzzo sometimes, it's, when you think of it geographically, it's central Italy, but sometimes they say culturally Abruzzo might be considered southern Italy. But and
Mhm.
it's not as well known as some of the other regions, unfortunately, because
Yeah.
I always think that every region deserves its spotlight. So what would you like to spotlight about the Abruzzo region in itself?
So should be even for my business and my personal philosophy. But what I love about Abruzzo region, it's nature. So we are used to say in Italy that Abruzzo it is the real green part of Italy, but to be exactly, it is the real green part of Europe.
Mm.
We are used to call it the green heart of Italy, or the green part of the green earth of Europe, because Abruzzo is also surrounded by national parks, and especially the place where I am. And Abruzzo it is one of the best places to stay in Italy, in my opinion, because in Abruzzo you can see the real authentic Italian lifestyle. So it's actually not so famous as Tuscany or Piedmont or southern Italy, like Amalfi Coast or Sicily, but actually Abruzzo it is a, a jam. We are used to say it is a jam. It is a place where if you came, you can really see Italian lifestyles, soft life, la dolce vita italiana, il dolce far niente italiano. So life, it is really, really going soft, and people are not having the city life, so they are not used to have quickly. Yes, for sure, we don't have so much services because we have not biggest city. Our biggest city is actually Pescara, so in the seaside, not so far from where I am, even if I am in mountain, and that's the best way to stay in Abruzzo, because in 30 minutes you can stay in mountains or you can stay in the seaside. And so that's something I really love about Abruzzo region. Uh, for sure, people, actually, we're used to say, as biggest poet was used to say about Abruzzo, Abruzzo forte e gentile. That means that Abruzzo people are kind but even strong people, and so are where they are really kind with tourists and people who wants to visit Abruzzo, and even with again, but in the same time they're really strong. They are really strong, a really strong character. So you have to imagine people are always needs to stay in the field, because Abruzzo population are used to stay to have a field economy. So even my family, for example, in my place, so people from Abruzzo used to live with fields, so they can seem rude, but it is not like that. People are always be kind, especially from people who wants to visit and know more about Abruzzo. For sure, in Abruzzo we have our special language, so we use a lot of dialect, and for
Mm.
sure I know it. And I used to talk with this dialect with my family and my friends, even if I'm a young person, so I'm dirty, and but we are used staying with friends to preserve our dialect because we love it, and I hope in future generation it will be talked a lot, because I think dialect it is something really characterize people and help us to preserve our real tradition in our dialect. So you have to imagine we have words who came from French, German, English, because of integration. The Abruzzo, it is a place where people decide to, especially after the Second World War, when situation was not the best. We got a lot of immigrants, and they came all over in the world. For example, my grandpa was in Canada for 5 years, and
Mhm.
so all this immigration are involved in our typical language, and we have words who can come from Spanish, from French, from English, and that's so interesting to know how it evolves. And that's something really interesting, given when these immigrants people, so Italian, especially Italian American people, came here for summertime. They talk the real autochthonal language, so the real dialect. And it is not the same we are used to talk now. And that's so interesting because they preserve the real one. They didn't have, integration. Um, Sometimes I really don't know what kind of, language they're talking, but it is just, the pure dialect.
I find that so interesting because I appreciate the local languages of each region. My husband, for example, he's from Napoli. And so,
Mm-hmm.
of course he speaks Italian, but really anytime I'm in that area, I go to, except if I'm in the church or if I'm in
Mm-hmm.
the courthouse, that's functioning in Italian, but everything else outside is done in that Neapolitan dialect. And it's, besides the fact that my mother-in-law refused to speak to me in classical Italian. However, but I had to pick up some of that because it's so interesting how it's part of the Neapolitan culture, and it needs to be celebrated and it needs to be preserved. And just like in all of the regions, you know, in Piemonte still, I think it's 5% of the population still
Yeah,
speaks the
yeah.
Piemontese dialect. And it's important because that, if, you know, when we trace back Italy still is a very young country. And these 20, you know, sometimes 21, because Alto Adige can be on its own,
Mm-hmm.
regions have these languages that are part of their history. So the next time I visit Abruzzo, you're going to have to teach me more about the Abruzzese dialect, and I'll
Oh, for
teach you some
sure, for sure,
Neapolitan.
for sure. I will. Don't worry. I love
Yes.
to know more about, dialect.
So then, besides teaching us about more of the dialect, so then tell us about the terroir of your specific area. So you're located in the Peligna Valley, correct?
Yeah. So
So
I'm
tell us about that
located.
terroir.
Yeah. So I'm located in the most internal part of Abruzzo. It has a concave valley. We call it Peligna Valley. It is in a really strategic position, as was telling before, because in half an hour I can be, in the seaside, and in the meantime I can be in the highest mountain. And Peligna Valley, it has, as told, a real cold valley, and that's a real big. Why? And that's because we are surrounded by mountains everywhere. So we have Maiella and Morrone mountains. We have Sirante in the other side. And so we are really, as a cycle, surrounded by mountains. Mountains are, the best for us because protect us from storms. But you have to imagine that as a concave valley, we are having a real cold weather, because if in the mountains snow, we are used to have the frost here. So we are really bounded by the mountains weather, and it affects for sure even the vines and the wine for sure. So the first thing, it it is bounded by the vines. It is all given by the frost. For example, if there's snow in the mountains, we can have frost, and we can have frost and snow even in May, because we have a really long winter here, and a really short summer, but really, really warm. For example, like this. We are in a really good soil part of the Abruzzo. So we are used to have a really medium soil. So 33 part of lime, clay, and humid, and sand. So that's perfect for the vine growing. In fact, Peligna Valley, it is one of the most, no place to have viticulture in Abruzzo. We got really good windy places. So good because if there's wind, there's no fungus. But every vintage is different each other, and vines are especially uh, interested by big phenomena in maturation time. In fact, in Peligna Valle, we have a big difference between night and day temperature. So this big difference between night and day temperature, especially in August, so when the grapes are growing, it is interesting for the copigmentation. Copigmentation, it is really the fact because our wines are really strong in color and in flavors.
Are you enjoying this podcast? There is so much more high-quality wine content available from Mama Jumbo Shrimp. Check out our new wine study maps, our books on Italian wine, including Italian Wine Unplugged, The Jumbo Shrimp Guide to Italian Wine, Sangiovese Lambrusco and Other Stories, and much, much more on our website, mamajumboshrimp.com. Now back to the show.
Co-pigmentation, it is a chemical phenomenon where it is not different the quantity, but just the strong of flavoring and color molecules. They are not more than in other part of Abruzzo, but they are co-pigmented, so they are bonded together, so their strength is different. And they are, for example, in our Cerasuolo, with a really deep rosé wine, we can see it really fast, because if you just taking in comparison rosé by Peligna Valley or rosé by the seaside terroir, they are really different in color. We are really got a dark pink rosé wine, and much more you go in the seaside, much more are lighter. So it affects the wine really so much.
That was a great lesson about location, and then, of course, the day and nighttime temperatures and affecting the color of your wine. So then, continuing with that, tell us more about the specific grapes that you grow and the ones that are native specifically to Abruzzo.
Okay, so in our familiar winery, we are used to have just the autochthonal grapes. As for white varieties, we have Pecorino, Trebbiano, and just a small vineyard of Moscato, which we produce a sweet sparkling wine. And as for red grapes, 100% Montepulciano of Abruzzo grapes, which we produce the Montepulciano of Abruzzo red wine in several different aging, still or oak, and its rosé version, Cerasuolo of Abruzzo. A real, the most used question I've received about my white grapes, it is all about pecorino. All are
Yes.
used to say, what a weird name for a grape. But this is a real autochthonal grapes. It is called pecorino because it's all involved in our tradition of trattori. Trattori, it's literally the street that shepherds was used to do with sheep from the mountains to the seaside when it is September. Because when it is September, the weather should, getting worse, and sheep will not survive to the winter up to the mountains. So they used to taking sheep next close to the seaside where it's warmer. And when they pass here, I'm in the middle, as told before, from the mountain to the seaside. So when they pass here, it is literally September, and sheep are used to 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 pass in the vineyard, and pecorino grapes are ready to be harvested, so they are really really sweet, and sheep love to eat it. So local people was used to say the sheep's grapes, the sheep's wine, grape pecorino, wine pecorino. But believe with me, you will not feel cheese in your glass.
No, and of course that I remember distinctly tasting your Velus sparkling wine, and maybe that had been one of the first times I had tried a sparkling pecorino, because in my market here, it's hard to find them, but I was just
Mm-hmm.
so amazed by it because I wasn't used to that. So tell us more, because I think specifically that wine had won an award the year before. So what
Yeah.
can you tell us about how you started to use pecorino for the sparkling wine?
So it was my project to in university. I was in university, and I was used to study how to make sparkling wine. And I was studying how to make sparkling wine using the best phenomenon of sparkling wine. So I was used to study how to make champagne, how to make prosecco, and especially I really appreciate the story about how to make champagne. Champagne was invented for error, and actually it is, the most sold and the most expensive wine in the world. And I was thinking, if people realize champagne forever, what I can do with my pecorino with a really aromatic grapes. And so I've started to to um, to experiment how to have this idea on how my pecorino should be sparkled. So I've talked with my teacher in university and then to my dad and then started practicing. I got about 1 year to try the right recipe to make it, and at the end, after 1 year, I I know it how to do it. So we got a sparkling pecorino with Italian method. So Italian method, there's different method to make sparkling wine, and always have to produce from the juice the wine, and after we have a second fermentation. If it is in the bottle, it is classic method, so French method. If it is made in a specific tank, which is called autoclave, it is made in Charmat method or actually Prosecco method. And I've chosen the Italian one, so the Charmat method. It is a really quickly Charmat method. It is, really experimental because my aim was not to lose the first aroma of the grape. So I want a real aromatic wine, and it worked. I got a sparkling wine with really aromatic, and it is a brut, so a really low sugar wine. And for sure, it is perfect for any kind of aperitif or pairing. I love this kind of wine, and but at the beginning, for sure, I was not sure of what I was making, and I was one of the first making something like that. So sparkling and autochthonal grapes, uh, it's it is actually it is something not really common, but in 2015 when we did this proof, it was it was something really weird. Yeah, I remember my ex-consultant was used to say, "You're crazy, Francesca, what you're doing?" But I was really involved by this idea, and I started to make it, and we had our first production in March. It was Easter time, and people really appreciate. And 1 month after it, Vinitaly was in, and I've decided to, inscribe my wine to Sparkling Star, who is an award for best sparkling in Italy. And that year I won it. Oh my God, it was incredible to me to win to win this award because I was graduate since just a month and it was something really weird in wine sparkling market, but probably it was something really the jury was really impressed about because pecorino is a really autochthonal grape sparkled in this kind of way, so not traditional. It was something really not weird but new, and the taste, okay, was really good. And so I think being new and being good was the best pairing for a new wine. And actually Valus is our one of our champions in the winery, and it is a sort of son for me.
Yes, I remember tasting it, and my eyes, I don't know if you remember, but my eyes, I think,
Yeah.
just grew wide because I wasn't expecting such refreshing. And I was, you know, of course, in my mind going through, well, I could have it with this and I could have it with this and this would pair well. And I don't need to use Prosecco. And of course, you know, I love Franciacorta. But to me, it's like you said, it's something new. But what an amazing wine. So auguri and complimenti for
Thank you.
this wine. And so when we think about your winery as a whole, of course, you know, working with the autochthonous grapes. So would you say that Montepulciano, because of course, when we think of Italy, there's so much, I guess, emphasis on Sangiovese and Nebbiolo when
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about red grapes. So how important would you say Montepulciano is to Abruzzo and to your winery?
So for Abruzzo, it is for sure the most important wine and grapes we produce, for sure. If someone knows something in the world about Abruzzo, it is always bounded by Montepulciano, especially in the red version. Montepulciano, it has, an amazing grapes. It is something I'm used to say for sure because I'm a Abruzzian and I'm an enologist, but even because I'm a technique of wine making. I'm not studied in Abruzzo and I'm not only worked in Abruzzo. So I was in Piedmont and I've studied in Tuscany, so a lot of Chianti and Sangiovese, and for sure I've studied even in Bologna city. So I've studied a lot about Sangiovese. But when we talk about Montepulciano grapes, we talked about an incredible grapes who is good in not to be so close. So it means less fungus, who is really productive, who can have really good alcoholic content, especially where we are, because we have a really late harvest. When you came last year, we were in the middle of October and we were, in the middle of the harvest time on the vendemmia. So when we talk about Montepulciano grapes, we're talking about Abruzzo. We have about, Montepulciano even in other parts of Italy, not so much as in Abruzzo for sure. But Montepulciano, it is the real Abruzzo grapes. Wherever you go in Abruzzo, where are vineyards, it is always Montepulciano. Montepulciano, it's a really good grapes to produce red wine, but especially in Peligna Valley, where we are, to produce really good uh, rosé wines, who can be, as in our case, even with superior mention, because we can have really good alcoholic content, as for example our Cretara, who can be even 14. Montepulciano grapes are, perfect to be even oaked as wine. In Abruzzo, we have a lot of oaked Montepulciano. In my case, I use Slavonia oak, as you know, but wherever you go, we use wineries use a lot of different oaking process. And I think to in time have tasted Montepulciano oaked or aged in whatever material and in whatever kind of oak, American, Slavonia, French, whatever. And it is always different. So we have a really good mm, same touch of black cherry, but by the aging, you can really change this kind of wine. So Montepulciano, it is a real richness of Abruzzo viticulture for sure, but even for Abruzzian enologists and enology. It is a good material to work with and to experiment, and it is something I wanna know. And just give me the time to try if it can be sparkled. I will let you know.
Oh, I trust you. If it can be done, I know that you will do it. So,
I will try and let you
sus-
know.
vai Francesca, vai. And so I know too, looking at your portfolio, you even have interesting names to the wines on your labels. So besides the Belus for your Pecorino
Mm-hmm.
sparkling wine. I remember from your Montepulciano, there was one called Cretara, and I
Yeah.
know you had some other names. So what is the significance of these names of your wines?
So all the name of our labels are involved by our history or tradition or culture. Cretara, who is one of my most sold wine in Italy and in the world, it is all bounded to my family tradition. In fact, Cretara, it is the hill where my fifth grandfather, Gabriele, has started to cultivate Montepulciano grapes. And Cretara Hill, it's actually all Margiotta winery property. So it is even, we are used even to go there, with wine lovers who wants to visit it. And so it is all bounded to my family. Instead, Vellus, it is all bounded to the trattori tradition I was talking about for Pecorino, because Vellus, it is literally the whole of the ships. In fact, in the label, we are used to reproduce in gold the whole of the ships to know people that Pecorino name it is bounded to trattori tradition. Another name of our wine, our best wine, it is Pentima. And Pentima, it is an historical name involved to the city of Corfino, actually a really small town with about at 2 kilometers from the winery. And it is a really lovely town today, but to in before Christ in Roman, time, Corfino was the first Italic capital, and this is the place where the name Italia is born. It is actually a town of 300 people, but at that time it was the first Italic um, capital. So in Corfino, all the Italic population get together to fight with Rome. Unluckily, they lose, for the history should be not in the same way. And so Roma city tell us, okay, actually, we need to change your name from Corfino to Penticma because you need to repent yourself. In fact, Pentima means repent. And with the fascism, Mussolini decided to change again name to Corfino from Pentima to Corfinio because he wants to reproduce the ancient Roman style fashionism. But you have to imagine that Pentima name, it is all involved in our tradition. And my grandpa is used to call the city of Corfino again Pentima because fascism and this kind of it was not so much time ago, so they were local people is used to call again Pentima, the Corfino city, again a town actually. And the other wine we produce, it is Ferax line. It is my entry level wines. And Ferax is instead bounded to not a tradition, but to culture, in particular to Ovidio poet, who is a really famous Latin poet from Sulmona city. And he was used to say that Peligna Valle was Ferax cereris multoque feracior uvis. That means it was Ferax or fertile, that's the real significate, to Cereris, that's the goddess of grain, so to grain production. Multoque feracior, and it means much more fertile uvis, so to grape production. And we know it, in the first 100 before Christ. So Italian population of Palinia Valley, it is very good to obtain grapes much more a long time ago, since first century before Christ, and that's something amazing when I discovered it. So I decided to dedicate an entire line to this, unique words of our most important poets of Ovidio, because I think history teaches us a lot, and if it was like that two, 2000 years ago, and it is like that now, it is something needs to be celebrated, and the wine it's always good to celebrate.
Of course, a way to a history teacher's heart is by giving us a history lesson. And Joy studied history as well, so we have quite a theme today. And it makes me want to take out my Latin textbooks. I had studied Latin when I was in school. So what a great insight into not only your winery, but the line of the wines. And I knew that there was a significance, and that's why I specifically wanted to ask. So thank you so much.
Mm.
And there will be a pop quiz for our listeners at the end. So they should brush up on their Latin terms. But wow. So when we go from the history part of it and we go to the wines, that you had just talked about, what are some of your essential food pairings? Because of course we can't talk about Abruzzo wines without some Abruzzo cuisine.
Oh, for sure. I'm always thinking about, wine and food needs always to be paired together. And we are used to say that wine is conviviality. So when wine it is on a table, that always needs to be food and friends staying there. My wines are wines who are really, really, autochthonal, and for sure they good pairing with autochthonal food for sure. So you have to imagine that one of our passepartout wine it is Cerasuolo. So this really deep rosé wine. We are used to pair it with everything. We are used to pair it with fish, with meat. We are used to pair it with pasta. And I have to be honest, we are used to pair it even with pizza because Churrasqualo, it is a real passepartout wine. It is a rosé, so they from Montepulciano grapes, so really good aromatic, really good acidity, perfect to be pairing with everything. But some essential food for my wines are for sure lamb. We are used to pair lamb with red or white. It depends on how you cook it. So famous arrosticini, for example, so lamb roasting, we are used to have it with for sure red wine. But if you have fried lamb, or you have for sure to be paired with a sparkling pecorino. Some essential food we are used to pairing with my wines are especially, really fatty food. So I'm used to pair all its fried, all its cheeses, even pecorino cheese, for example, with good acidity wine. So pecorino sparkling, Cerasuolo, or our, typical meat food, local, like sausages or, handmade local prosciutto or lamb, again, with red wines or Montepulciano, especially if it's oaked. So oaked Montepulciano, it's perfect to be paired with red meats, and local red meats are the best. Julie, you came in my degustazione time, in my wine tasting time, and as you know, I'm always used to pair food with my wines. And for example, our tagliere of degustazione, so the plate with we are using to give people who came in our degustazione, it is always made by a local selector that only use local producer food. It's in my winery, local word is always used every day because we want really to promote our territory. So, for example, with my wines, we are used to give cheeses from local shepherds or, um, sausages, salami, or prosciutto by local bachelor or producers. Um, Garlic of Sulmona in Sulmona, so the closest city to my winery. We are used to have an autochthonal red garlic, and we are used when it's time in the year to pairing even the stems of garlic with our cerasuolo because we want always to promote our area, even in the food pairing.
Yes, and I remember your tagliere distinctively because I even saved a photo of it in my favorites album on my phone. Because when I think of the best, when this was the ideal pairing, that's what I think of is what you had offered to us. And we were just so, amazed by it. And of course, when you had started with that sparkling pecorino, it's
Hmm.
just, it was an outer world experience. So we still talk about that, by the way. And so these were all great things that, of course, we hope that more people visit your winery, and you had even won an award in 2019 at Vinitaly, correct? It was the Grand
Oh, for
Medaglia
sure.
Can
Yeah,
Grande. So
yeah.
before we finish today, can you tell us about that award that you won?
So it was a real surprise. I have to be honest. When my dad, came in the winery and said, "Okay, do you know the Angelo Betti Award?" And I say, "Yeah, it is probably the most important national award for viticulture." And he say, "Okay, you won it." I was telling him, "You're mad, Dad. It's all okay. What's happening?" And instead, I was, by my region, Abruzzo, I was candidate in the national award, and with my full surprise to know it, I just knew it at the end, and I just knew it when I was really won it. So it was a real surprise. It is one of the biggest, award I won, and I was sure of it just the moment I have arrived in Vinitaly, and there was the president of my region and the president of Vinitaly who get me the award, and probably this was the moment when I really realized I was win it. And it was incredible because with me, believe me, there was the story of viticulture in Italy. There was this Tuscan man who was 90, and it was one of the best producer I've always met in my life. And he was simply, telling me, "Oh, you're the Abruzzo winner. I'm the Tuscany." And it was, amazing to meet him and to got the same award. So probably the distinction they gave to me, it was, for the job my family was doing in this land since 1910. And my dad, my grandpa, m- you know, his father and father and father, and it was probably even to say good luck for your career. You start good, and we want to say you good luck, and you got really good, and we want to give you a good luck for the willing. And believe me, staying there and realize the national TV was there, and and you were one of the 20 in the nation to won it. Uh, it I think nothing can can pay what we lived that days. Oh, it was incredible, and and to win it was really art in your soul, because you're accepting something to tell your family thank you. And it was something really, really special to me, to thinking about, what was before me and what will be with me and after. And an amazing moment for lifetime and for the family, for sure, for the business, for the winery. Uh, so good and so exciting.
Yes, and I know that on your website there's a picture of you with the
Mm-hmm.
medal, and it's just so cute because I can see that the happiness in your eyes and how important this was for you and your family, and especially your grandparents. So we applaud
Mm-hmm.
you again, auguri and complimenti,
Thank
because
you.
that
Thank
was
you.
so important. And we hope that others will come and visit your winery in Abruzzo, and I, of course, look forward to seeing you again. It's funny you mentioned about people usually staying in like Pescara, and that's where I normally stay every single time is Pescara. And you can get
Mm-hmm.
around Abruzzo quickly, so I look forward to meeting you again. And Joy, I would ask if we have any questions for our lovely and meritorious Francesca.
Hi. Let me see here. Leica, do we have any questions at this point? I always say that if anybody does have questions and they're too shy to ask, they can always email me at info@italianwinepodcast.com and I can forward it. Leica, are you there?
Hi, I'm here. Well, there are no questions in the chat, but if there are any questions from the audience who would like to ask, you can just raise your hand and we'll put you up on the stage.
We also only have 2 minutes left.
Oh, okay.
So that's the other thing as well. Julie, thank you so much. Francesca, thank you. That was a really great conversation, and it was really good. I hope you guys come back. And I'm actually gonna close the room because I don't see anybody raising their hand. And yeah, like I said, if if anybody does have questions, they're welcome to email me, and I will put you in contact so that you can get an answer to your question. Leica, what is the clubhouse on Friday?
Okay, so we have Rebecca Severs. She's also part of our VIA community. She will be interviewing Giovanni Nordera from Pasqua Winery. So that's going to be on Friday at 6 p.m. Italian time zone.
Cool. And then after that, we'll be back end of August.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh my God. Wow, I've got a frog in my throat. Julie, thank you so much. And Francesca, I wish you all the best. Keep cool in the summer heat. Enjoy, everybody, the summertime if you're going away on vacation. And I wish you all the best. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you
Okay,
so
ciao.
much.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao,
Ciao.
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 Once again, here we go. Swirl, sniff, sip, spit. While you drink, don't forget these tasting tips. Swirl, sniff, sniff.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode brought to you by the Wine to Wine Business Forum 2022. This year will mark the 9th edition of the forum, to be held on November 7th and 8th, 2022, in Verona, Italy. Remember, the first early bird discount on tickets will be available until August 22nd. For more information, please visit us at winetowine.net.
guys, I'm Joy Livingston, and I am the producer of the Italian Wine Podcast. Thank you for listening. We are the only wine podcast that has been doing a daily show since the pandemic began. This is a labor of love, and we are committed to bringing you free content every day. Of course, this takes time and effort, not to mention the cost of equipment, production, and editing. We would be grateful for your donations, suggestions, requests, and ideas. For more information on how to get in touch, go to ItalianWinePodcast.com.